Before we get started with this, I just want to say the president started a press conference at around 5 o'clock tonight. We tape at 6:30. It was still going on when we started. And so I just want to thank in advance everybody who works on A Closer Look, because they were pulling clips right up to when I walked out here. So if this looks crazy, one, it already was crazy. Two, it's because it was doing it in real time. So here we go. President Trump just held a crazy solo press conference in New York where he defended his Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh from sexual assault allegations. For more on this, it's time for A Closer Look. Trump, of course, lies freely to his adoring fans at rallies and on Fox News, but yesterday at the United Nations, we saw what happens when he steps outside his bubble. He repeated a ludicrous campaign talking point, and the crowd laughed at him.
In less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. America's so true. Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay.
He had no idea what he was saying was funny. It's like he's been playing for the Harlem Globetrotters his whole life, and suddenly they're playing against the Golden State Warriors. What do you mean, technical foul? I always use this ladder. Now, the UN used to be a solemn, dignified place, and now Trump has turned it into the studio audience from Married with Children. From now on, all of Trump's speeches should come with a sitcom disclaimer.
Trump is filmed in front of a live studio audience.
It's such a bummer to watch world leaders sit around and laugh at us. I just wish someone had run for president promising to do something about it.
The world is laughing at us. The world is laughing at us. They think we're stupid.
They think our representatives don't know what they're doing. They laugh at us behind our back.
See, he fixed it. Now, instead of laughing behind his back, they laugh right in his face. But Trump, of course, Trump cannot abide being humiliated or exposed as the liar he is. So later in the day, when he was asked about the laughter, he made this preposterous claim. He meant to get laughed at.
Oh, it was great. Well, that was meant to get some laughter, but it was great.
Oh, it was meant to get laughter? So you've been doing that joke for 2 years, and the first time it ever worked was at the UN? You guys are a great audience. My usual crowd doesn't get that one. That was not meant to get laughter. Trump's like the kid at the sleepover who wakes up with his hand in warm water and says, "Oh, good, I meant to pee my pants." But this incident was a deeply revealing look at the ways in which Trump and his sycophants lie and then create alternate realities to justify those lies, because this morning his aides and supporters on state TV adopted his line and insisted that the crowd was actually laughing with him.
When he said that, they love how honest he is, and it's not diplomatic, and they find it funny.
I like the president's, I like his comment, I like the reaction, and then when he said I was expecting that reaction, I liked it when everyone laughed afterwards. I was surprised, or should I say, not surprised, but taken aback by the way other people said, "Oh, the world's laughing at us." I think they were having fun.
So to recap, Trump lied, got laughed at, and then lied about getting laughed at, and then Fox News lied about Trump's lie about how he got laughed at for lying. And Trump's claim that he's accomplished more than any administration in history wasn't the only laugh line in his speech. He also repeated a debunked talking point that he's used before, that Germany is becoming dependent on Russia for oil and gas. And when the camera took a crowd shot of the German delegation, they seemed to be laughing at him.
Germany will become totally dependent on Russian energy if it does not immediately change course. Here in the Western Hemisphere, we are committed to maintaining our independence from the encroachment of expansionist foreign powers.
Look! Look at that dude's face. You know it's bad when you've made the Germans laugh. In Germany, that face is the equivalent of a Steve Harvey laugh. Trump kept undercutting his speech by embarrassing himself. In fact, in that same clip, he tried to deride international organizations by calling them expansionist, but he couldn't even say the word.
Here in the Western Hemisphere, we are committed to maintaining our independence from the encroachment of expansionist foreign powers.
Why does he slur his words so much? Trump's a teetotaler, and yet in the middle of that speech, he still got pulled over for a DUI. In fact, later in his speech, Trump did it again when he misread the phrase human smuggling, but in a classic Trump move, he tried to pretend that what he accidentally said was what he meant to say.
The United States is also working with partners in Latin America to confront threats to sovereignty from uncontrolled migration. Tolerance for human struggling and human smuggling.
Human juggling. That's right, human struggling, as in I watched the president's UN speech and saw a human struggling to pronounce words. So this week, we've seen this week that there's an entire right-wing propaganda machine to insulate Trump and his inner circle from the reality of their lies and the consequences of their actions. Let's not forget, Trump's Supreme Court nominee, Brett Kavanaugh, did the exact same thing. The very first words Kavanaugh spoke to the American people after Trump nominated him were a flagrant and obvious lie.
Mr. President, thank you. Throughout this process, I've witnessed firsthand your appreciation for the vital role of the American judiciary. No president has ever consulted more widely or talked with more people from more backgrounds to seek input about a Supreme Court nomination.
That was such an obvious and shameless lie. Trump was handed a list by a conservative think tank, and he picked a name from that list. Can you imagine if Kavanaugh had said that in front of the UN General Assembly?
No president has ever consulted more widely or talked with more people from more backgrounds to seek input about a Supreme Court nomination.
Now, Kavanaugh's willingness to lie so shamelessly in that first speech and in his Fox News interview this week has wrecked his credibility as he faces horrific, credible new allegations from a third woman, Julie Swetnick. In fact, Kavanaugh's account of his supposedly pristine choir boy high school and college days in that Fox News interview on Monday has since been challenged by many of his own classmates. For example, nearly a dozen people who knew him well or socialized with him said Kavanaugh was a heavy drinker in college, with one saying Brett was a sloppy drunk and another saying he was frequently incoherently drunk. And in his high school yearbook, he listed himself as the treasurer of the Keg City Club, 100 kegs or bust. In fact, he was so drunk for his high school history class that when he was asked to describe the UN, he called it
expansionist.
And on top of that, Mark Judge, Kavanaugh's friend and classmate, and the man who was allegedly present during the incident, described by Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, wrote a memoir about his drunken past called Wasted in 1997. And in that memoir, he doesn't name Kavanaugh specifically, but he does reference a character who passes out drunk and throws up in a car named Bart O'Kavanaugh. Dude, you couldn't come up with a better fake name for Brett Kavanaugh? Hey, man, I'm gonna put you in my book. All right, but make sure you change my name. Don't worry, dude, no one will know it's you. Now, to make something clear. Getting drunk in high school, getting drunk in college is not in itself suspicious, nor is it disqualifying for the Supreme Court, but lying about it definitely is, especially when the women credibly accusing you of sexual assault say you were drunk when you did it. And yet, in his Fox News interview, Kavanaugh was adamant that he was never blackout drunk.
Was there ever a time that you drank so much that you couldn't remember what happened the night before?
No, that never happened.
You never said to anyone, I don't remember anything about last night?
No, that did not happen.
Except people who knew you say it did happen. Kavanaugh lies so much at this point, I'm expecting him to leave during the hearing tomorrow and come back in with a fake mustache. This man is innocent. I'm the one who's guilty. The name's Barto Kavanaugh. And I'm from Ireland City. Ireland. So Kavanaugh's classmates say he was frequently drunk, and Kavanaugh's own credibility is in tatters. And yet yesterday, during a meeting with the president of Colombia, Trump stood firmly behind Kavanaugh.
I mean, charges come up from 36 years ago that are totally unsubstantiated?
I mean, you, as watching this, as the president of a great country, Colombia, you must say, how is this possible?
Don't bring him into this. Look at him. He looks like he's sitting in the front row at a magic show. Don't pick me. Oh, please don't pick me. Now, late today, right before we started taping the show, Trump held a rare solo press conference. Now, a lot of what you're going to hear is going to sound insane, but don't worry. Trump established that he is not insane and is, in fact, very intelligent.
If you look at Mr. Pillsbury, the leading authority on China, he was saying that China has total respect for Donald Trump and for Donald Trump's very, very large brain.
A brain. Some have said my brain is a spicy meatball. So today, Trump's Supreme Court nominee was credibly accused of sexual assault by multiple women, and his confirmation is in serious doubt. But I gotta say, it seems like Trump's handling it pretty well.
If we brought George Washington here and we said we have George Washington, the Democrats would vote against him. We paid $1.8 billion in cash. This whole room would be filled up with $100 bills. This is so-and-so calling for, he took the call. Why is he taking a call from a Russian? It's a con job. And it's not a bad term. I'm a very famous person, unfortunately.
Yeah. On that, we're in agreement. From there, Trump went off the rails, attacking the women alleging sexual assault against Kavanaugh and claiming the entire process was a conspiracy.
I think when you really look at it all, it's not going to change any of the Democrats' minds. They're obstructionists. They're actually con artists because they know how quality this man is, and they've destroyed a man's reputation, and they know it's a big, fat con job.
A big, fat con job? I'm pretty sure those were the results from Trump's physical. Now, Trump responded to the third allegation today by focusing on her lawyer, Michael Avenatti, the same lawyer who represented Stormy Daniels in a case that ended with Trump's personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, pleading guilty to crimes involving Trump.
Are they liars?
I can't tell you. I have to watch tomorrow. I have to read. I just heard about one a little while ago. I can tell you her lawyer is a lowlife, okay?
Oh, come on. If he was such a lowlife, you would have hired him. Is he available? I love that guy. Trump also cast doubt on the details of the allegations, suggesting that no one knows when they actually happened.
Whether it was a man or a woman, 30 years ago, 36 years ago. In fact, they don't even know how many years ago because nobody knows what the time is.
Just because you don't know doesn't mean nobody knows. If someone asked Trump the name of his son, Trump would say, no one knows. And as usual, he concocted a deluded conspiracy theory claiming the Democrats had made up the allegations and that they knew they were false.
They go into a room, and I guarantee you, they laugh like hell at what they pulled off on you and on the public. They laugh like hell.
No, dude, they're not the ones laughing. You're thinking of the United Nations. This whole thing, of course, it's straight out of Donald Trump's playbook. He has denied the many credible sexual assault allegations against him and viciously attacked the women making those accusations, and he did the same thing today.
I've been accused. False accusations.
Right.
Excuse me.
How have those...
I've been accused. And I was accused by, I believe it was 4 women. You can check with Sean Hannity.
Oh, we should ask Sean Hannity? You're never in a good place when your first character witness is Sean Hannity. I didn't eat that guy. Just ask my pal, Hannibal Lecter. So Trump defended a man credibly accused of sexual assault today in a solo press conference that was off the rails and made it clear that he is definitely a
Human struggling.
This has been A Closer Look.